this now. Oh, I think this is live now. You know, the issue is this new YouTube studio, this beta or whatever they call it. It's definitely not better. Uh, I'm so used to the old way, and when I just get used to the old way, they change it again. And anyway, I think I'm live now. I'm just trying to see if stop streaming. So the stream looks good. If I'm live, somebody write to me just to let me know that I'm live. I'll just refresh it again just to make sure I'm live. I don't want to start talking for like 10 minutes and I'm not even live. Okay, I'm live. By the look, I'm live. Good. Okay. I can't tell on this page whether I'm live or not, but I'm seeing that it's 5 is watching. Okay, I'm here. Good. Okay, if I drop out, just let me know. I'm going to go back to this OBS page because that's the only way I can see that the stream is still live. And I was just wondering if somebody could remind me to check my cake in the oven in 15 minutes because I'm making a beer cake for my Canadian girlfriend neighbor for her birthday tomorrow, and I'm kind of famous for my beer cake of all things. I don't drink, but I've had this can of beer in my fridge for maybe a year. I don't know. I've had it for a long time, but her husband loves my beer cake. And so I'm making it, and I just hope it turns out okay because he was so thrilled with the last one. He's like, you know what? This reminds me of my grandmother's beer cake back in the 1960s. He said, I don't think I've had one as good as this since then. I'm just like, oh my God, the pressure's just gone up. So, and that last beer cake that I made, it kind of still wasn't, well, I mean, it was good, but I could have probably cooked it longer, but I don't know, it just worked. It just worked. And I'm an intuitive cook, so I'm hoping this one turns out just as good. So it's a big cake and it looks like the center still needs to cook. And so I've turned the heat right down now and I'm just hoping it kind of cooks through. Oh my gosh, I hope it turns out because I've got no more beer and, no more butter. And I just hope it works. But anyway, if someone could remind me, that would be great. So, okay, let's get into it. So I've kind of been inspired the last couple of weeks about, I wasn't sure if I was going to do a live stream about this or doing a video about this. Because obviously I have some things I want to share, but I think I'm going to leave that for my Patreon. Before I start, I also just want to say a shout out to Joey for joining my Patreon. Thank you so much. He's a new patron, so thank you. So I decided to do a live stream because I really enjoy the interaction with you guys about this. But I'm finding that more and more and more as we progress in this new age. I won't say it's the golden age yet, but we're on the brink of the golden age because we have to, as a species, sort out all this shit to get to, the good things. And there are a lot of good things because most of you that watch my videos now know that reality is what you make it, and conscious living involves you making choices, individual choices for yourself, and you determine your destiny by your thoughts, by your actions. Nothing is left to chance. And although at times I know many of you may feel that you have been drawn the unlucky card, or well, how's this happened to me? How did I do this? Or why is this happening to me? I never chose this. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint, but you actually did. And every single event up until that moment has led you to that outcome. You know, but I get it. I'm just, hold on one second. I'm just gonna close these windows because they're making a flap for the curtains, and I don't want to bother you guys. So, um, so conscious living, making conscious choices about what determines your reality. That's a huge thing these days. And actually, it's great because more and more people are realizing they are conscious creators. They are creators of their own destiny. And it doesn't make it any easier though for people to understand how to get what it is that they want. And I'm referring I'm referring to women right now in general because there is so much going on in the world for women. Um, you know, and I'm seeing it more and more and more now. Like the oppression in many places in the world. I'm not talking about so much the Western countries, but I'm talking about the ones that are um, less developed culturally, as in the Middle East, as in Africa, as in Afghanistan, all these countries that are so steeped in traditional tribal laws and things that are, they just seem so backward and out of whack with equality and having quality of life. And it really does put things into perspective. But it's these women that are living these lives that is creating this change of, you know, having us go into a golden age, because all this negativity and all this oppression is what's needed to come to the surface in order to deal with it, because it's creating response, it's creating outcry, it's creating so much response from the world in general that humans won't stand for it anymore, and they want to change it. And you know, I'm not saying, you know, life is easy for women in the Western countries either, because there's a lot of gender inequality issues wherever you go in the world. It's We live in a highly aggressive global society dominated by males. And I'm not discounting all the men that watch my videos, and you know, I know there's some incredible, fantastic men in the world. There really is. And you know, there are some women in the world that are awful, you know, and are evil, um, or are not good humans, that are doing bad things, just as guilty as some of the men in the world. But I seem to believe that a lot of the persecution and the oppression of women is happening in these less culturally less culturally developed regions in the world. And what's affected me a lot is what is happening in these Middle Eastern regions, because I've spent a lot of time there. I've lived there and I've seen it, I've felt it, I've experienced it. I am so lucky when I think about what I did and what I went through in the Middle East, and how sometimes I did not end up in jail. Not that I did anything illegal, um, but you know, the freedom of my lips, the freedom of my expression and creativity, how I was just so naive to sharing that with everybody and not knowing who they were, or what connections, or what clout they had with people. There were so many times where, you know, for example, a lot of you know that I was in a very kind of extreme relationship with a very big man over there. And some of the things I said to him, when I think back now, I just think, how the hell was I not blacklisted from this place? How was I not thrown in jail? So many times I just think, wow. And there were some times where I was on the brink, and you know, I could have easily been thrown in jail. And I just think back now, I think, God. And that's, like I say, not for doing anything illegal, but because there is such a bias to the male orientated culture over there. you literally can get away with murder as a man in these countries, and especially if you are in a position of power, if you're royal, if you have some kind of status, you get away with anything, and I mean anything. Anything goes. Um, some of the stories I have are absolutely filthy, filthy, and of course they are to do with men, in these countries, usually very debased, very debauched. Um, um, oh my gosh, it's just so wrong. It's just so wrong. Some of these things that I know. And I could never go public with these without putting myself in danger. So I never will. And I applaud the women that have. For example, you look at someone like Sheikha Latifa, who is now, I don't know if anybody's heard about her that's watched my online stream, but she's world famous now for making the video of her father, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, about her trying to escape Dubai and talking about the oppression and how many crimes he's guilty of. And not just him, there is a whole bunch of them. But she hits the nail on the head. And this poor girl, I mean, obviously, if you follow the story, you'll know that she was caught in Indian waters. She was dragged back by UAE military on a naval boat. Um, because she escaped with a French ex-French spy, um, Hervé Jabeur or something like that. His name is, and they got caught, and she got dragged back, and no one has heard from her since. A lot of people were thinking she had died, but she wasn't. She is alive apparently, but when I saw these pictures of her, she is so out of it. She looks so sedated on something. She looks out of it. For sure, she would be on some kind of behavior modification medication, without a doubt. She's such a danger to her father's reputation, and I know everything she speaks is the absolute truth because I, at one point, met one of his sons, and I'm not going to go into detail, but the fear in one of his sons of his own father was so scary to me. I just thought, holy shit, this kid, he is so scared of his father, and I know everything she says is the truth. So anyone trying to discredit her, or like she says in the video, anyone trying to discredit her, say she's lying and it's fake and phony, it's such a crock of shit because, I've had that experience with these people in the circle, um, and it's off. It's so off, and yeah, it's scary. And I knew about when she talks about the Moroccan wife that was murdered, belonging to her uncle, another sheikh. I'm not going to go into names or whatever, and how she was murdered because she was too outspoken. I knew about that story before she even spoke about that. This Maghrebia wife. You can't even imagine the atrocities, and that's just the one family. Then there's other families that I'm not going to mention that, and it's not just the UAE. It's Saudi Arabia. I don't know if people know about the oppression of King Abdullah's daughters that were, kept under house arrest for years and years. And I think about these women now since, he died, and apparently now the brothers are in charge. And I had tried to find out information if those princesses were okay. Someone had said that they were all killed, and it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me if that is the case. But we're talking about princesses here. People look at these lives of royalty and people with great wealth, extreme wealth, and they think they have it all. They don't. A poor woman living in these countries that has no royal connection or any kind of status whatsoever is better off than some of these girls and women living these lives. It's just shocking. It's shocking when you live it and see it firsthand, and you know the people. And people are too scared to even whisper about it. To even have a thought about it is dangerous. You're just never safe. And I just, in my naive mind, I think back now and I just think, holy shit, you know, how I got out of that place unharmed and, you know, like not thrown in jail or, and like I said to you, the girls I used to live with, a couple of them were thrown in jail. And it just happens that quick. It doesn't matter how much money you've got, who you are. They don't even need a reason. You know, you could be so tied up and have so much money and so much connection and so much wasta in these places. As soon as you're a threat, soon there's no reason needed. Without a warrant, they can come and arrest you. This is the oppression of places like this. And then, you know, we're not even talking about places like Africa where, you know, you have the female genital mutilation, which is so rampant among these traditional tribal groups. And it's still practiced, you know, it's still practiced today. Could you imagine? It's still practiced. And um, any women that goes against that, you know, is frowned upon and pretty much excluded. And some are even killed. Same with Afghanistan. Oh my gosh, you know, the forced marriages. When I saw something where a daughter that was born, she was only 3 days old, had already had her marriage arranged for her. You know, there was a 5-year-old that had her, she was forced into marriage, like at 5. So I don't know how that kind of worked, but she had been already given away at 5 years old, or had it arranged. So like maybe when she was 10 or 12 or whatever, she was given to a husband, and it's only for dowry. It's got nothing to do with Islam. It's got nothing to do with, um, you know, like, it's got nothing to do with any kind of religion, because this is the backbone that they always seem to fall on, saying, you know, oh, I do this in the name of Allah, and that's just rubbish. There is no law written in the Quran talking that this is right, and it seems to be the basis with all these regions. And women women are so disposable. Women are so disposable in these places, and it's awful. But it, you know, what's happening now is that because of the internet and because of these women that are speaking out and doing something about it, um, even at the cost of their lives, people are becoming aware of how it really is. And you know, women on this planet are the underdogs. I'm not talking about, you know, living in Western worlds, because I'm really focusing on what women really have to deal with. Even like, not even just in these countries, but in the Stan countries, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan and Tajikistan and Kazakhstan, all these places, these women work so much harder than the men. My goodness, there was a farmer woman that, you know, she not only fed her husband, she was up at like 5, going to their farm, doing all the animals. Like literally, the husband and the son, they do nothing all day and just wait for the wife to come home from plowing the fields to cook them lunch, and then the women will go back out to the paddocks again, do the hard work, come home at maybe like 8 or 9, prepare dinner, go back and do some other kind of work. Like, oh my gosh, this is the world we live in. And so any kind of woman that goes against the grain of these societies or these cultures are really frowned upon, because they believe it's ingrained within their blood that women are secondary. We're at the same level as animals, and they truly believe that, and they believe it with all their heart. And it's been like this in tradition for such a long time. I'm just going to hold that thought because I just want to check this cake. 1 second. I'm right here, but I'm a little... Okay. Okay, I think, you know what I need? I'm just going to get a fork, kind of poke it. Okay, we're good. Taking the cake out. You guys want to see my cake? Here's the cake. Oh, put it over here. So, you know, the oppression of women is massive. It's massive, but it's going to take these women, these kind of women, the ones that are living the oppression, to see the change, to see the light, because it cannot go on like this. There will be changes made, and we may not see it in our lifetime, but at least now it's being acknowledged. It's being acknowledged, and people are becoming aware outside of these places that this is how life really is. Because when you visit these places, when you go even to Egypt, or, you know, like any of these Middle Eastern countries, you don't see this. You don't see it unless you live there and talk to these people or live amongst these women. It's a huge thing. And then if you do see them online, it just puts everything in perspective. You know, we might be having a bad day here where we have the freedom to wake up in the morning and decide, oh, what am I going to do today? Where can I drive? What can I do? What plane can I jump on? We wouldn't even give it a second thought. Us women, you know, privileged in the Western world, we wouldn't even give it a second thought about making these choices. We take freedom for granted so easily, when all these women want and will sacrifice their life to get it is freedom. They will risk their lives. Um, you know, and then now look at Princess Haya, now pretty much the ex-wife of Sheikh Mohammed, who fled Dubai with something like $50 million in a private jet, seeking, I don't know if she's seeking asylum in London, but she's terrified for her kids that they will be sent back to Dubai, because she knows full well what's really happening. And people are saying, you know, she decided to leave him after she learned about Sheikh Latifah. But Princess Haya, I look at her eyes, she is a smart woman. I feel like she's had this plan for a long time, and she was just waiting for the right moment, and very calculated. I don't think she left anything to chance. I feel like she knew this from a long time ago, that she wanted to do this. She was concerned. I don't blame her. I don't blame her. She is a smart woman. She is smart and courageous for getting out. Whoops. Hopefully that didn't drop out. So those of you that feel hard done by in life because you don't have money, or you feel poor, that you don't have money, or you don't have this and you don't have that, and you don't have fame, you don't have royalty, you don't have status, you know, take a good hard look at all the beautiful things you do have that are so overlooked and taken for granted. You know, these women that seemingly have everything have the one thing they want above all else, and that's the freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom to be who they want to be. So many things we take for granted, and it just shows you know, on the outside it looks like they have everything. They really don't. They really don't. And this is the way of our world right now, and it's been like this for thousands of years. Women have always We've always been the underdogs. We've always been the whores. We've always been the sluts. It's never been the men. So it's always the woman's fault. If a woman has an affair with a man, she is the whore. It's never the man's fault. The woman is known as the homewrecker. The woman is known as the slut. The woman is known as, you know, the woman, the person that broke up the family. The woman's hated. The woman is the one that's locked up when she's on her menstrual cycle. You know, we are the child bearers, what our bodies go through. Like, my God, I feel like on a global level, a subconscious global level, men are aware of the power that women have. We are so powerful. We are so overlooked. And especially these days, women do not know their power, or they do not own their own power. And now is the time to awaken to that. And I don't care what you look like, how you look like, where you are at your in your present life, you are a goddess. You are a goddess walking this planet. You know, you have to know your worth. You're a woman, you're fertile, you are the creative expression of the universe. Because I feel innately creation, existence, all that is on a female biased. And I know males absolutely have their place, and we can't do one without the other, but creation to me is female biased. You look at an ant's nest, you look at an ant's colony, all run by females. You look at a bee colony, all run by females. The males come out when they're needed, and then they're gone again. They die within 4 days. Everything's done by the females, you know? And I know we need that integral part. We can't do without the other, and I realize that. And I'm not a feminist. I'm not one of these aggressive feminist women in the world, but I feel like I'm just taking a practical approach and observing in all practicality, how our world is. You look at this, and the world just seems on that female biased. So whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter. It's just an opinion. But when I look at creation in the world, when I look at an insect colony, when I look at how things are in the world, it just seems like there's a female bias. So, wherever you are, women, wherever you are in the world, however you're feeling about yourself, don't categorize yourself. Don't put yourself in a box that you need to fit, that you need to look a certain way. Social media, that's the real dark side to social media, is that people just feel so incapable of accepting who they are because they see something on social media of a woman that looks incredibly physically attractive and looks like she's got the most glamorous life and the most, beautiful body and flawless skin. That is just so unrealistic. That is so unrealistic. That is not how the majority of the world is. And the most beautiful thing that you could do for yourself is just walk in front of a mirror, no matter how you look, and just say to yourself, you know what? You are a goddess, and I love you. I love you just as you are, body. I love you just as you are, wrinkles. I love you just as you are, fat. Like, you know what I mean? Just loving yourself as you are. Because that energy that you start to give yourself it's felt by your cells. It reverberates everywhere. It ripples throughout. People can feel that love frequency a mile away with you. It's an unspoken quality. And I wish as humans we were that advanced, that we could, read someone's aura or feel someone's aura and be like, wow, look at their aura. Wow, that's someone that is full of love. I wish, instead of judging ourselves on our appearance, we judged ourselves on our auras and be like, oh yeah, they're a little bit murky, but wow, look at the one next to her. Whoa, she looks so good. That's how I wish. If there was any judgment, there shouldn't be any judgment, but if there was to be any judgment, that would be a more healthier judgment to have, is is judging people on their auras and how developed they are spiritually and internally rather than what appears on the outside. Because I've said it so many times before, you could be the most stunningly gorgeous creature to ever hit the face of this earth, but if you have a bad attitude, if you're a nasty, mean, disgusting person inside, it's going to make you ugly real quick. There's only so much people want to tolerate or be around someone like that. We all know that, right? It just makes someone so ugly, and no one wants to have anything to do with someone like that, no matter how beautiful they appear to be on the outside. It really is what's on the inside. It really is. And I feel like, you know what, I kind of feel social media is kind of, there's a dark side, but there's also a very positive side, because I feel like now people, and women especially, are accepting themselves so much more for what they are than ever. There's a really positive body image movement happening, I feel, online, and humans are becoming more accepted just as they are. So it's kind of on both sides of the scale. So the internet has been fantastic for that, but then the internet has also been a downside for those that continually portray themselves as this perfected, flawless creature that has this flawless life, and putting that out to the universe, and to the earth, displaying themselves in such a way when the viewer and the person who created it both know it's a lie. It's not real. It's not every day. You would never see a picture of them when they first roll out of bed in the morning, right? Or something like that, without makeup on, or drawing on those six-pack tan lines or whatever. I don't know. But that's where then you should consciously make some guidelines and choices as to what you allow your eyes to see, what you allow yourself to see. So that can take a conscious effort. And then, staying away from things like media, like television, and that kind of culture, which, it's another world. It's another world. It doesn't have to be your world, but it's another world. So there are positive and negatives, lights and darks with every reality, with every world, and it's up to you what you decide to take from those. So, that's kind of how I feel right now about that. But I really feel that the whole women empowerment thing really needs to be acknowledged. Women really need to love themselves now. Women really need to step up for themselves, not to meet anybody else's expectations, but to honor themselves as the goddess they are. Honor themselves as the goddess they are. No matter how old you are, how you look, what you do with your life, to at least compliment yourself at least once or twice or 3 times a day. Give yourself a bath. I talked recently about the importance of bathing, and programming that water that you bathe in as love frequency water, bathing in healing energies, and complimenting yourself in the bath, and touching your skin and touching your hair, and like really, really having an experience in the bath. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me on this. It does wonders. It does wonders. You are basically changing the molecular structure of that water molecule. You are changing that structure. You're basically changing the molecular composition of that water molecule. And there's been plenty of evidentiary support to back that up. And you can see that for yourself. But those types of things, cooking for yourself, good, hearty, homemade food, preparing a beautiful salad. After this, I'm going to juice these oranges. Have a beautiful juice. Like, treat yourself with good quality food, good quality produce. Get out in the garden. Converse with your mother. Converse with your mother, as in Mother Earth. Talk to her, nurture her, love her, plant a tree as a form of a loving gesture for her. Do something out in nature. Talk to the flowers. Talk to the bees. Um, you know what I mean? Like, or just stand out at nighttime, looking at the stars and just feeling so thankful that you've lived another day and you're breathing still and you can feel your heart beating in your chest. Or doing something extra for the kids. If you're a parent, lighting a candle at the table for the kids, and it might whack them out a little bit, but just saying, mummy is making some romance out of dinner tonight, instead of, feeling like you have to rush through this and rush through that. You know what? Dinner time around the dinner table should be the most important part of the day for a family. Turning off gadgets, turning off TVs, turning off any noise, maybe putting on some just relaxing kind of meditation music, putting on some candles, getting out some cloth napkins, putting out, presenting well and just eating together for like an hour, as opposed to rushing off and quickly doing this and quickly doing that. And I know it sometimes feels like there isn't enough hours in the day, but there is. It's just time management. Just time management. So, there's all these small, simple little things that women can do to um, make themselves feel better and live better. Let's see who's here today. Hey, everybody. Hi, Leah. Hi, Athena. These cultures unfortunately have forgotten the divine femininity of nature. Honey, I don't even know if they knew of it, but I feel like at some point they did, because you got to remember that places like Afghanistan, their ancient history, they're the Bastion people. The Bastion people were at the kind of the Mesopotamian era, the Sumerian era. So back then, I mean, it was so different. None of this oppression with women. I mean, there may have still been kings and things back then, but I don't believe that female oppression was even remotely as bad as what it is now. Because if you look back into places, if you look back into Iran, Afghanistan, their culture, you look at pictures in the 60s, before the Islamic Revolution, these women are wearing skirts with their faces uncovered. They look like a Western woman. They look like a free society. So same with Afghanistan. When you look back of how it was before the Taliban took over, it's incredible how they used to live. And then the whole burqa was introduced, where not only did they have to cover their body but their whole face. So this is only a recent thing. Hasn't been steeped in their history for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. This is a new thing, brought in by a couple of fanatical ideologists that have these radical opinions about what they think is, God's law or God's way or God's word, whatever. It's a crock of shit. It's a couple of fanatics. There is no equality in it, because if there was, women would not be treated the way that they are. Feral Gal, what a wonderful surprise. Hey, beautiful, love and blessings. We are losing so many great YouTubers with the new changes. Makes me so sad, as I never watch television. Yeah, you know what? I'm the same with YouTube. Most of you know I have a bit of a sour taste in my mouth with YouTube. I'm not online as much as I used to be, although I am uploading my old videos, kind of like a bit of an archive thing. But I have lost that passion for, creating on YouTube now. It's not the same anymore. So when I feel the intuitive pull, like I did today, to talk about this, I will do it. But I don't have, YouTube has let me down so much. It just makes me not want to be a part of it. but I feel like in many ways it is a great platform for me to still connect with, viewers and people that like to watch my stuff around the world. But I don't have the same heart with it because of my experience with YouTube. YouTube has let me down. So whether I stay on YouTube or, I don't know, like go on another platform, I'm not sure. It's still a very transitional time in that respect. Freedom is wealth. Hi, Marcellus, Andulairah, you're such a gorgeous woman. Oh, you're so sweet. Hi, Melanie. Could it be that men fear the power and sexuality and wisdom of women? Absolutely, and that's been recorded throughout the ages. Women used to be locked up when they were menstruating because they knew about the sacredness of the menstrual blood. I've talked about the power of menstrual blood, and as soon as those videos were uploaded online, you remember a couple years ago, they were flagged immediately, demonetized, flagged, age restricted, the whole 10 yards, whole 9 yards. Even recently, I talked about, and it's not just the female blood, it's also, the sperm of a man. They are both supremely sacred. They are the key that unlocks that door to having that ecstatic experience, that feeling and experiencing that God source energy. That's why it feels so good. You're so connected to source energy when you have an orgasm, or you're having a very loving sexual encounter. So not a debased one, not a debauched one, because remember, it's all about frequency, and where you're resonating throughout your energetic centers in your body. So if you're in a very loving, energetic experience, together, I mean, that is some sex magic is the most, or sex alchemy is the most powerful, the most potent form of energy work there is. And that's why, throughout the ages, you hear about these orgies or these rituals with people, because they knew of the power of these fluids and these times. It's sacred. It is sacred. Hi, Casey. Emerald is here. I'm under the stars and listening to Journey to the Trinity. I love your music. I saw falling stars in the air and lights flying around. Much activity in the air. Oh. Athena says here, Abrahamic doctrine, whether it be Christianity, Judaism, Islam, has so many patriarchal messages spread throughout. It is no wonder it's taken this long for women to progress. In ancient times, I wonder. Yeah. Oh, look. I just think of the women that were before us and what they have had to deal with, and it's incredible. Women have just been so overlooked and underestimated for seemed like forever. I don't think it was forever, because I feel like with some of these ancient cultures that were incredibly advanced, I do feel like there is equal. But yeah, we're living in a very strange time right now. The intuitive reader. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Chris, that is the truth. I think women are the strongest ones. They've had to be. And I feel like they innately are. Men would be lost without us. Men would be lost without women. And I'm not talking about all men here, because there are some incredible men. Like I said, there are phenomenal men as there are phenomenal women. And there are some women in the world that let us down and give us a bad name. So it goes both ways. But generally speaking, I don't believe that women know their own power and how they are the creators, and how they are, fueled by that source, that goddess source. And men are as well. But, like I say, I just feel that, women are just let down because of this oppressive culture that is happening within our world right now. Casey says, even though I've never been to the Middle East, I can just imagine how the men treat females. Yeah, for the most part, it's really, really bad. Really bad. They're in charge of everything. They decide, the man decides everything. The man decides everything, whether you go out. They are the ones that divorce you. Um, they decide everything. They are your spokesperson. But not every man in the Middle East is like this. I met some incredible men in the Middle East. I really did. And some of them were abused by women. So, I mean, that's kind of a minority because it usually is the other way around. But there are some poor men over there that have, kind of got the stick from women over there. Because, there are a lot of submissive men in that culture. So everybody's individual, and every every experience is individual. But I will say that's the minority, because the majority, especially of what I experienced, that's not the case at all. And, even as a practicing witch, someone that, like a sorcerer, someone that's practicing alchemy and magic, I feel like I was so protected, but should I have had a conversation with the wrong person, my ass would have been thrown in fucking jail that quick. Like, oh, and this is what would stop me from ever going back, and especially somewhere like Saudi Arabia, where they still practice public beheadings and public killings, stoning to death. Like, God, I could never go to these places. I wouldn't go to these places, because that freedom is stripped from you straight away. I just never would. They have such a fascination and superstition about these practices, and they believe in them so much, and yet it's so illegal and it's so forbidden that you get killed if you're found out about. But and this is the biggest hypocrisy and the biggest contradiction about these places, is that all these high profile families and people, they all work with witches and witch doctors and these shamanic type people from all over the world. Some you would never even hear of. They work with them, and yet they denounce it just as quick. It's the same with uh, you know sex workers. It keeps that economy going over there, and yet when they speak about it publicly, saying, "Oh, it's forbidden," it whatever. It keeps that economy going like nothing else. Keeps those cogs turning in the wheel. That's for sure. Mm. The intuitive reader says the models on social media don't even look like that in person. Most of them are depressed and unhappy, and social media is their self therapy. Absolutely, 100%. I couldn't even agree with that more. They are. It makes them feel better about portraying that certain look or that certain lifestyle, because most of them are probably very lonely, very unhappy, and depressed. Not feeling fulfilled. And I agree with you. Yeah. Self love. You must love yourself just as you are. You must find the goodness within yourself, because this is just a skin. It's not your spirit. This is temporary. Our lives here are so short. You know, the majority of us are going to be here for, unless there's some kind of rejuvenation technology that's developed. Something happens to our DNA that we are upgraded to self-regenerative processes. Most of us have a lifespan of anywhere between 70 and 100 years. Look, we could be talking a couple hundred years later on, but right now, I mean, we can self-rejuvenate ourselves anyway, but most people don't believe that, and so that's not a belief system that they um, put effort into, and so because you really are as old as you think you are. Age is really just a number. And the more you reinforce that by birthdays and counting that down and whatever, the more your life is going to be recorded on this age belief system. That's right. The intuitive reader says yes. Every country is oppressed. Every country has oppressed women in a different way, not just the Middle East. That is true, and that's you know, I would say I've just shed light more so in the Middle East because it just seems so much more extreme. Where women's basic human rights are taken away. At least in other countries, if there is a real injustice to women, something can be done about it with the law. Like you can walk into a police station or into a lawyer's office and say, look, this happened to me, and you will go through the correct judicial system, that's in place. Whereas in these countries, there is no law. There is a tribal law. Even though there is a law, it's not enforced. Tribal law seems to overpower everything in these places. Or you being royal, there is no law. There is no law. Imagine when I first went to the Middle East, I left America, I left my whole world, and I had a very, very comfortable world. I didn't need to leave, and in many ways I was reluctant to leave in the end. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go, but I had already made the choice, and I had job interviews in London. I had legally binding documents, contracts signed. I was flown to the Middle East. I landed. I was escorted to a palace. I'm not going to say what city, but I was escorted to a palace. And within me being in this palace for about a week, I end up meeting a sheikha. And I was very, very well dressed. I had tailored clothes, beautiful silk blouses. I mean, I looked good because I was a pretty wealthy, mid-20s or so young woman. And I could look that way. And I did look that way. And I was going to be working for her husband. And she looked at me. It's just custom for the women to introduce, especially when you're in the inner circle. It's custom for the wife or the women to introduce and make the other women acquainted. It's just part of the culture. She took a look at me and basically said to her assistant and to me, and all her daughters were all kind of lined up, and the maids, and I mean, everyone was just there. She just said, I'm sorry, but you cannot work for my husband. And I'm just like, what? She said, you cannot. You are too much. And I said, I have signed legally binding contracts and documents. She said, in this country, that means nothing. And I'm just like, wow, right, okay. So that is how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be. And my shock, I mean, you couldn't wipe the shock off my face. And I just said, why? What's the problem? She said, I'm talking to you now, woman to woman. She said, I do not want an embarrassing situation to happen between you and my husband. And I just said to her, I am so professional. I've done my job so well. Like, how could you say this to me? You don't even know me. She said, I am not concerned about you. It is my husband I'm concerned about. She said, you have got to understand this world. It is a man's world here, and they will do whatever they want with you. They can even wipe you off the face of existence if they want. I was so shocked. I was so pissed off. I was so disappointed. Her poor assistant, or assistants, but her main assistant was sitting behind her, who I met in London. Was just looking at me, shaking her head, just begging with me, saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Oh, fucking hell. I was in such a blur. I could not believe it. But that was my introduction. That was my introduction into that world, that extreme world. And I was wealthy. I didn't have to work, so I didn't work. I didn't work. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother story. But that was an introduction as to no law. There is no law. Tribal law. Um, even it's above a like a governing law, like a government. These people are above the law. They can make you invincible that quick, within a blink of an eye. They are the law, and that's why um, they're having such an issue with this whole situation with Sheikh Latifah, and because there are so many diplomatic connections with that man, and how he has just dispersed his wealth and his investments all throughout Europe, particularly in Britain. He has so much real estate in Britain. And there's so much diplomatic ties to Britain. It's difficult that any headway has been made with revealing details about what is actually going on to the public. And, it's the same with that whole Jamal Khashoggi murder, and getting any real evidence on that. Because remember how much of a big deal that was? It was everywhere. And now, who's talking about it? What's happened about it? Who's been persecuted? Who's been charged with the murder? Nobody. You're going to get nowhere with these people, because we live in a filthy world. There is no justice system. Money talks. End of story. Money talks. End of story. Even the chooks agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Middle East is probably the most strict with women, in my opinion. Not just strict, it's this backward mentality that women are disposable. Women are literally disposable, and that's the most scary thing, is that they can be done with just so quick, so quick. Alex said, please don't disappear. I would miss you so much. Let us know where we can go to support you. If you want to support me, if I decide not to be on YouTube, I do have my Patreon page. If you want to support me at my Patreon page, I do whatever happens on YouTube, I do a monthly video. Despite whatever happens on YouTube is what I'm saying. I do a monthly video on my Patreon. For those that have been following me for a long time on Patreon know that I do this video once a month. That way you can keep up with what's going on with me personally and everything that's going on here. And that's another thing, is people realizing how capable they really are, or women, I should say, realizing how capable they are, and having the courage and the strength to try things they haven't done before. Take me as an example. I've just finished building a veranda, like a 3-meter veranda, like as in 3 meters up and maybe 7 meters across. I didn't even tell, I come from quite a traditional family. I didn't even tell my father, because he would try and stop me from doing it as much as he can, because in his mind, he just feels like women are not capable. Or at least not just women are not capable, but it wouldn't be done properly, like a man should do it. Do you know what I mean? So I deal with that as well. So don't think that I don't get it, because I do. But since he has now seen it, since I finished it, he's kind of bitten his lip a little bit, and he realizes that I'm much more capable than even he believed to be, which is good, because now he's allowing me to. He's trusting that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, whether it's a man's job or not. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. I don't know if I'll do it right, but I'm going to try. Oh, thank you. Whoops. The intuitive reader says, my husband is from the Middle East and he treats me like a queen. I have never met a man like him. Love, love, love this man. Oh, girl, you have a rare one then, because, and there are some, like I said, there are some fantastic men over there. There really are, because I've met them. But it's the minority. It really is the minority. Yeah, that's right. Sally makes a good point. While we're on the subject, even the femininity within males is made fun of or oppressed, and these men are looked down upon regardless of whether they are straight or not. Absolutely. The femininity is the focus of people's bigotry. 100%. 100%. Slavic Devil is here. I agree. I am such a fan of the Middle East and its culture. I've had the honor to go to Dubai, and I was told by my Emirati friend to not go to Abu Dhabi because being gay is still punishable by death. So, as a gay man, I had to be careful in Dubai, but it was so beautiful. Do you know what? A huge contradiction with this as well, because um, there are plenty of gay men in these places living, and they are Emirati or local people, and this is the contradiction: is that a lot of these gay men are invited to parties on sheikhs' yachts and just sheikhs' parties in general. They like to have these type of men available, and a lot of these people are gay themselves. It's and things like, okay, I'm gonna get a little descriptive here. This is just so ridiculous, but this is how they think over there. At least some of them. You are not gay if you fuck a man. So if you fuck a man, you are not gay. But if you let a man fuck you, you are gay. Yeah. That that is what is believed. I don't understand that because I thought any kind of sexual interaction with a man and a man was gay. Like, this is what I mean. It's so backwards. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The intuitive reader says, I watched an African movie, a village where the women got fed up with abuse, so they all left. The men could not survive, so they followed them and begged them to come back. I believe it. Actually, there is a tribe of women in near Kenya called are they called the Amaji? The Amaji. I'm not sure, but they got sick of the bullshit and female genital mutilation. Um, they got sick of the men and they created their own village, and there were no men allowed. And they fought the men off. When the men came, they fought and beat these men, and they had to go. So, and this woman now that created it, she's famous for this. She's a real empowered woman. I'm just trying to think of her name. I can't remember, but what she started was the impetus of all these other villages of women, women dominated places where women call the shots. And I just think that's so empowering. These women are goddesses, they fully embody the power of the woman. And they did something that was just um, so contradictory and so, just so courageous, and they did it. They did it, and now it is the norm, and they are the boss basically. Tomboy's here. Hey, Tomboy. Melanie says, I love how you try everything and have the courage to just start and go step by step and be successful. Honey, thank you. But, I just want to say thank you for that. But it can be no other way, because actually, when I first moved to this place, I used to think in my mind, thinking, God, wouldn't it be good to have a man around here to do that job, or to build a veranda for me, or maybe it'd be good if I had a man that could, help me build something, or help me remove the render, or help me lift rocks. Do you know what? That way of thinking got me nowhere. And I just thought, you know what, girl, you have got to get on with it and just do one small thing at a time. And that's what I did. And that was the impetus of my own success, was the small things, the small goals just led to the big goals. It had to be like that, because I'm one woman doing all this man type work that I've never ever dreamed of doing, let alone whether or not I know what I'm doing, but dreaming of doing this kind of work, and I've done it. And I've done it without a man, so I don't need a man for nothing. I don't need a man for nothing. So, it is, and but that's what I mean. Is having that courage to surprise yourself as well. You ladies, surprising yourself. Do something that maybe you've thought about and think, can I do that? Yes, you can. Hell yeah, I've done it. You sure can do it. It just, it just takes a little bit of courage, and then once you do something, it kind of gives you the courage and spurs you on to try something else a little bit bigger. And it's just that step by step planning. Those small little steps just lead to the big ones. And I'm not saying building this veranda out here. I'll show pictures on my Patreon video, just because on a live stream it's hard to kind of navigate with pictures and things. But um, this veranda, it for sure was not easy. You should have seen me. Girl, I was out. You should have heard me some days. I was out there swearing and cursing to the gods. It was hard. It was hard. These beams, I've got these 90 by 90 millimeter massive, I think they're like 3.6 meter beams. I had to set them in concrete. So I've got a damn cement mixer going. Then I had these beams I had to set, make sure they're all straight with a spirit level. I mean, I wouldn't even have known what a spirit level was a couple of years ago. And then having to cut out these crevices or these joins in the wood. Maybe they're called joists. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't even know what they're called. But I knew I had to do them so I could fit another beam of wood to go across horizontally. You should have seen me trying to lift these beams. Here I am, I'm standing at about 2.8 meters on this rackety old ladder, hoisting these massive beams up by myself. Oh, hell. You should have heard the words coming out of my mouth. I wanted to cry. It was so hard. And then I almost fell off the ladder. There was just such a gust of wind, and oh my God, I held onto the beam. The beam kind of tilted. Oh, hell. But it worked. I did it. I eventually got there and I did it. I put all the shade cloth over the top. I hammered in these, I don't even know what you call them, like these special kind of flat nail things for the shade cloth. Oh, man. It was nuts. It was nuts, but I did it. And it's standing now and it's still going. It looks amazing. It takes the sun off this house. Wow. Feels good. It feels good. It's still not done, but it's 90% done. It's 90% done. So yeah, it feels good. It feels good. Butt joints. Thanks, Tomboy. What's his name? Slavic Devil says, you're so right. There was plenty of underground clubs where men were openly showing affection. My Emirati friend and I had to get a hotel with 2 bedrooms to shake suspicion. Yeah. Slavic Devil says, and he was a sugar baby of a wealthy man there. Yeah. Oh, look. Oh, it's so common. It's so common. Slavic Devil says, I would move to Dubai in a split second if I could stand the heat. Oh, look, it seems like a perfect life in many ways, especially if you do have a sugar daddy or a sugar mommy or something, and someone's willing to pay for you and look after you and whatever. But it's not idyllic in so many ways, because like I said, it only takes one person to fuck it up for you. Like if someone, just out of spite and out of jealousy, or just someone who's having a bad day that has a lot of clout, has a lot of wasta, and has the right connections, it literally takes a second to destroy someone there. Like, I knew of a huge businessman there that's not a local, someone that's from a neighboring Gulf country, big country. They made so much money that they were becoming a threat. And the guy that created that company, he was arrested, thrown in jail without. Imagine someone that had a lot of money. He was thrown in jail. No warrant, no nothing. Just taken, just like that, just like that. Nothing. That's how it's done. So it seems idyllic and it seems like a very glamorous kind of life, but it's filthy. I think of all those poor workers there, all those, like the Indian people, the Bangladeshi, not so much Pakistani, because there's such a hierarchical system, there's such a class system depending on where you come from. The Filipinos, Bangladeshi, the Indians, the Nepalese, there is a whole group of them that are treated worse than dogs. It's just it's squalid. It's awful. It's just so disgusting. But that is how it is. And so I think about those things. So I don't that whole glamorous lifestyle is a facade for all the disgusting, decrepit, awful things going on in this place. So I lived in Dubai for what 7 or 8 years. Those rose-colored glasses come off pretty damn quick for me, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. But if you like that kind of showy, glamorous lifestyle, then all for it. But I couldn't live like that. I couldn't live knowing that there are people that are struggling and people that are basically slaves. I couldn't consciously enjoy living in an area where I knew that this was happening. And I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it with my own eyes. And it never, ever, ever, ever sat well with me. Still doesn't. Feral Gal says, are these men powerful enough to have sabotaged your channel? Possibly. Possibly, but I don't give a damn about any of these men now or who they think they are. But I can't imagine my channel was any kind of threat to them. I never mentioned names or anything. I was always careful like that, but I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat to them. But out of spite, maybe they could have. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think something with YouTube, but in their country, sure, absolutely. You can be arrested for posting a certain picture on Instagram. You can be arrested for that. You can be arrested for sharing an opinion. I mean, there are so many dissidents. There's so many Arabs. I'm talking about local people that are in jail for expressing opinions other than what is accepted or correct. Anyone that goes against that system, you're in big trouble. You are in big trouble. Chris A says, I hope you show us the finished project. I have to do a lot myself also, so I love to see your projects. Yeah, I have done so much in here as well, but it's constant. It's constant work. Slavic Doe says, oh God, yes, I met so many people in Dubai trying to convince everyone they are Persian, because if you're Persian, it immediately heightens your rank in this class system. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous, but that's how it is. That's how it is. Everywhere in the Middle East, there's a class system. Usually the maids you would have were either Filipini. The most common were Filipini or Ethiopian. We had Ethiopian maids at basically where I lived. And the way they were treated was just, it's not as bad as some others that I knew, but and especially the stories I heard with some in Saudi Arabia. But it's still definitely debilitating. These women they are so worked, and some are sexually assaulted. Everything, like there's so much you don't hear of or see, and you never, ever, ever will. And that's our world. That's our world. Athena said, how did people receive you when you were there in the beginning? Did they think you were more Western or... Well, actually, no, because by my look, I did obviously look somewhat Middle Eastern, but just kind of top crust piece. Because they saw my clothes, they saw my shoes, they knew where I had come from. So I was very well received with most people, but just with this family, it triggered something in this woman, that she was a smart woman. She wasn't impolite, but she was very direct, and it's almost as if she had a premonition of what she believed would have happened, and she wanted to thwart that before it even became anything. Not that it ever would on my behalf, but like she said, those men can do anything with you, whatever culture you are from, whatever. I feel sorry for maids who go looking for a job in the Middle East. It's really sad when you hear the horror stories. It's awful. And they're blinded by this idea that they're going to have so much money and they're going to be so well off and they're going to help their families so much. They realize the extent of it when they're either there. But some of them are just so desperate that they'll do it anyway, thinking, I'll only do it for 5 years. A lot of them don't ever see their homes or their families again. Yeah, so anyway, goodness, I felt, oh, cake. Cake is okay. Let's see if I can drag this out. This is my cake. I don't know if you can see this. It's still kind of warm. Here it is. Beer cake. Let's just try a bit of topping. It's okay. I'm just more concerned about how the actual cake tastes. So anyway, empowering yourself. Women, be empowered. Know your worth. Know the goddess within you. Own your goddess. Be who it is that you need to be. And don't conform to any other way except for your own individual best way. You are so much more capable and more incredible than you could ever imagine. And if you just gave yourself a shot, if you just told yourself, I love you just as you are, you would see a change in your body, in your frequency, in everything that you do. And people, women are just so hard on themselves these days, and I think women should, if they're not kind to themselves, to learn to start becoming kind to themselves, and knowing your power, and completely being yourself just as you are, embracing who you are right now, not tomorrow. Oh, I'm going to be this person in 6 months' time. No, right now, love who you are right now. Own your goddess. Love you guys. I'm out of here. And until next time, may you always be blessed by the supreme truth and love of the cosmos. Love you guys.